My brother ruined my 3-year relationship. He said it just happened. The family told me to move on. So I did move on from the family business I had been holding together for years. I'm 32, sitting in my new apartment, 3 months removed from the explosion that shook my family. I figured it was time to get this off my chest, because honestly, some of you might think I went too far. Most of you will probably say I didn't go far enough. Either way, here's how I systematically dismantled my family's finances after discovering that my brother had been sleeping with my girlfriend during our entire 3-year relationship. Let me start with the family dynamics, because that context is important for understanding why I reacted the way I did. My younger brother, Tyler, has always been the golden child. Not in the subtle way where you question whether you're imagining things. I mean the kind of favoritism so obvious that even a sitcom writer would say, "Tone it down, that's unrealistic." Growing up, I was the responsible one. I got good grades without being asked, helped around the house, and had a part-time job by the age of 15. Standard older sibling behavior that nobody particularly noticed or appreciated. Tyler, however, lived under completely different rules. He failed 3 classes in his junior year of high school: English, history, and algebra. None of them were particularly difficult. Dad's response? He's just not challenged enough. Maybe we should look into advanced placement courses. The kid who couldn't pass basic algebra was apparently ready for AP calculus. That lasted exactly 1 week before Tyler dropped the class, claiming the teacher had it out for him. When he was 16, he got caught shoplifting a pair of $200 noise-canceling headphones from Target. Security stopped him as he walked out. Mom's reaction? It's just a phase. Boys will be boys. The store didn't press charges, so in her mind, it wasn't that serious. No punishment, no repayment, nothing. Meanwhile, when I was 15, I got grounded for 2 weeks because I came home an hour past curfew while helping a friend whose car had broken down. I had called ahead and explained everything. It didn't matter. Rules were rules. Shoplifting was apparently just boys being boys. When Tyler was 17, he crashed Dad's truck into a mailbox while joyriding. The front end was completely destroyed, around $8,000 in damage. He had 3 friends in the car and was driving about 50 in a 25-mile-per-hour zone. Dad's response? Accidents happen. That's what insurance is for. That same year, I accidentally scratched Mom's car door with my bike. A tiny scratch, maybe 3 inches long. I had to pay for the repair from my summer savings. Different standards, same family. Then there was the college money situation. Dad had saved about $40,000 for each of us. Mine went toward tuition and textbooks. Tyler burned through his entire amount in 1 year on living expenses and parties, then dropped out. Did Dad make him pay it back? Of course not. Tyler simply moved back home rent-free, and Dad continued slipping him money for various failed business ventures. The real problem is that this dynamic didn't end when we became adults. If anything, it got worse. I worked extremely hard to get through college. I took out loans, worked 2 part-time jobs, graduated with a finance degree, and landed a solid position as a financial analyst at a mid-sized firm. Nothing flashy, but it paid well and offered room to grow. By the time I was 26, I bought my own place, paid off my car, and built real savings in investment accounts. I was doing everything the responsible adult playbook recommends. Tyler, meanwhile, dropped out of college after 1 year. He claimed the traditional education system was too restrictive for his entrepreneurial spirit, and then bounced between business ideas that never succeeded. The first venture was a pressure washing business. Dad bought him a $3,000 commercial washer, a trailer, and advertising materials. Tyler completed maybe 3 jobs, earning about $400 total, then stopped returning calls because the work was too physical. The equipment sat in Dad's garage for 2 years. Next came the vending machine empire.
After watching a YouTube video about passive income, Tyler became convinced it was the perfect plan. He bought 4 machines on credit and placed them in terrible locations: an abandoned strip mall, a gym that already had multiple machines, and 2 office buildings where he hadn't even asked for permission. He lost about $6,000. Then he tried cryptocurrency trading. He convinced Dad to give him $10,000 to invest. Within 3 months, he had lost $9,000 buying random coins because Reddit said they would moon. He kept the remaining $1,000 to buy a new phone. After that came social media consulting. He created an Instagram account and charged $500 to manage businesses' social pages. He got 2 clients, both family friends, posted a couple of random updates each month irrelevant to their businesses, and eventually disappeared when they asked for refunds. Every failure, according to Tyler, was due to bad timing or people not understanding his vision. Every job he quit, there were at least 8 or 9 of them, was because his boss couldn't handle his innovative ideas. He worked at Verizon for 3 months before quitting because they expected him to meet sales targets. He worked at a gym for 5 weeks before getting fired for constantly showing up late. He lived in Mom and Dad's basement until he was 25, rent-free, contributing nothing. And the whole time, Mom defended him during Sunday dinners. "Tyler is just finding his path," she would say. "He's an entrepreneur. These things take time." Meanwhile, I was thinking, I found my path just fine, and nobody gave me 5 years of free rent to figure it out. Now here's where the story becomes relevant. 3 years ago, Dad asked me to help restructure the finances of his construction company. He had built a respectable business over 30 years, doing residential renovations and small commercial projects. But his financial management was extremely old school. Everything existed in his head or scribbled on scraps of paper. Bookkeeping meant a shoebox full of receipts and a checkbook he balanced maybe twice a year. I spent 6 months of nights and weekends organizing everything. I created spreadsheets for project tracking, implemented QuickBooks, established better supplier relationships for volume discounts, and renegotiated contracts with subcontractors. In the first year alone, those changes saved the company around $80,000. Dad thanked me with a handshake and the phrase, "That's what family does." No payment, no equity, not even a holiday bonus, just the expectation that I would keep helping because we were family. And like an idiot, I agreed. 2 years later, Dad decided to semi-retire. At 62, he wanted to travel with Mom and maybe spend more time playing golf. That was completely reasonable. But guess who he chose as his successor? Tyler. Despite having 0 experience in construction, project management, or business operations, my brother was given the official title, a $75,000 salary, and half ownership of the business, 50% of a business worth roughly $1.2 million. When I pointed out that I had essentially been performing executive-level financial work for 3 years without pay, Dad responded, "You already have your own career. Tyler needs this more than you do." Apparently, that's how succession works in our family. Give the business to the person who needs it most, not the person who's qualified or has been keeping it afloat. Still, I let it go because I believed family meant something. Now let's talk about Rachel, my ex-girlfriend. I met her 4 years ago through mutual friends at a barbecue. She was fun, intelligent, worked as a dental hygienist, and had a laugh that could light up a room. We connected quickly and started dating seriously after a couple of months. Around month 3, I introduced her to my family. Looking back, that might have been when everything started going wrong. Tyler immediately turned on the charm. That's always been his strength, being the charismatic, funny center of attention, while I'm the quieter guy who talks about spreadsheets and retirement plans. At that first dinner, he pulled me aside and said, "Dude, she's way out of your league. How did you pull that off?" I laughed because I assumed he was joking. Over the next 3 years, Rachel became deeply involved with my family. She attended Sunday dinners even when I worked late, helped Mom with holiday meals, went shopping with my aunt, and showed up at Tyler's birthday parties even when I couldn't attend because of work. At the time, I thought it was a good sign. My girlfriend getting along with my family seemed like proof that the relationship was serious. Looking back, there were small warning signs. Rachel always wanted to sit next to Tyler at Sunday dinners instead of next to me. She said it was because I often got up to help Dad with things, so she didn't want to sit between empty chairs. That explanation seemed reasonable then. She also started dressing differently for Sunday dinners. Nicer clothes, more makeup, carefully styled hair. Yet when we went out together, she often wore simple jeans and a t-shirt. I assumed she was trying to impress my parents. It never occurred to me she might be trying to impress my brother. She also texted Tyler about random topics, asking about restaurants or sending him memes during the day. When I asked about it once, she joked that Tyler was simply funnier than me. I laughed, too.
3 years worth. I let everyone take a good look. Tyler was the first to speak. Dude, I can explain. Things just happened. We didn't mean for this. Save it, I replied. Things don't just happen for 3 years. That requires planning, coordination, and constant lying to my face at every family gathering while you were sleeping with my girlfriend. Rachel was crying. I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. I was going to tell you, I swear. I just didn't know how. You had 3 years to figure out how, I said. You chose not to. That's a decision, not a mistake. The room went completely silent. Everyone stared at their plates, at me, or at each other. No one defended me. No one seemed angry on my behalf. Just an uncomfortable quiet. Finally, Dad spoke. This is obviously a difficult situation, but we're family. We need to handle this calmly. Getting angry won't help anyone. I actually laughed. Calmly? You want me to calmly process 3 years of betrayal? What do you want us to do? Mom asked. Tyler made a mistake. Rachel made a mistake. But destroying the family over this seems extreme. There it was, the response I expected, but still struggled to believe. Don't create drama, keep the peace, protect Tyler. That had always been the pattern. I'm not destroying anything, I said. I'm just done being the family doormat, done being the responsible one who sacrifices while Tyler gets handed everything and ruins it. Done pretending family means unconditional support when it's really conditional based on how convenient I am. Tyler stood up. You're being dramatic. Yeah, we messed up, but you're really gonna throw away your entire family over this? Watch me. I walked to the door and opened it. Everyone out. Dinner is over. At first, nobody moved. Then Rachel slowly gathered her things, still crying. Tyler looked like he wanted to argue, but Mom grabbed his arm. One by one, they left. Dad tried to say something as he passed, but I just shook my head. After they were gone, I sat in my apartment surrounded by untouched catering trays and felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just clarity. The next morning, I sent Dad an email. It was formal and professional. Effective immediately, I was resigning from all involvement with the family business. The financial systems, supplier relationships, and tracking processes I had created were no longer my responsibility. I would send documentation explaining how everything worked, but I would not provide ongoing support. His response came 2 hours later. This is childish. You're hurting the business just to get back at Tyler. Think about what you're doing. I had already thought about it. I had thought about it for 3 years while he handed Tyler a company he wasn't qualified to run. I had thought about it every Sunday dinner where I helped for free while Tyler collected a salary. I've thought about it enough, I replied. This is me being finished with it. The business collapsed faster than I expected.
It turns out Tyler's management style, arriving late, ignoring problems, and hoping everything resolves itself, doesn't work well in practice. The first major problem was the Henderson project. It was a large kitchen renovation for a repeat client. It should have been simple, an $8,000 budget with a 2-week timeline. Tyler was supposed to oversee the job. He showed up to the site exactly twice. He failed to order materials until the crew had already arrived and was waiting. When he finally placed the order, he chose the wrong cabinets. They had to reorder everything, which added another week. Then he hired a plumber who did such poor work that the entire installation had to be removed and redone. A project that should have taken 2 weeks lasted 6. The client refused to pay the full amount and threatened legal action. Dad ultimately accepted a $3,000 loss just to preserve the relationship. Next came the Morrison commercial project. It was a small office build-out with a $20,000 contract. Tyler submitted the bid without calculating material costs or labor hours. He simply proposed a number that sounded reasonable. It turned out his estimate was about 30% too low. The company lost roughly $8,000 on that job. When Dad questioned him about it, Tyler said he was trying to be competitive to secure the contract. He apparently didn't understand that winning a bid that loses money isn't actually winning. Within a month of my departure, 2 major clients stopped working with them. One client left after Tyler missed 3 extended deadlines. They told Dad directly they couldn't continue working with someone so unreliable. The other client ended the relationship after Tyler arrived at a meeting completely unprepared. He couldn't answer basic questions about timelines or budgets and tried to improvise vague responses that made the client doubt the company's competence. The bookkeeping system I had built was abandoned. Tyler didn't understand it and didn't make any effort to learn. Instead, he returned to Dad's old method, receipts scattered everywhere and no clear tracking of job costs. I had designed a spreadsheet system that tracked materials, labor, overhead, and profit margins automatically. Tyler looked at it once and said it was too complicated and went back to keeping everything in his head. Supplier relationships also deteriorated. I had spent 2 years building trust by paying on time and communicating clearly about project timelines. Tyler would order materials, promise payment within 30 days, and then forget about it until suppliers started calling after 60 days. Eventually, many of them demanded payment up front. One supplier even arrived at the shop and refused to unload lumber until they received payment. Dad had to write a check immediately. Tyler also spent money carelessly. I used to request quotes from multiple suppliers to find the best price. Tyler simply called the first supplier available and ordered whatever they had in stock. Material costs increased by roughly 20% across most projects. He also hired subcontractors without proper vetting. I had maintained a list of reliable contractors who provided fair pricing, quality work, and dependable schedules. Tyler instead hired people from online ads or individuals he met casually. The results were predictable. Crews frequently failed to show up, the work quality dropped, and the costs were higher. Change orders became a problem. When customers requested additional work, Tyler approved them without understanding the financial implications. He would agree to the changes but forget to add them to the final invoice. Later, estimates suggested he gave away nearly $15,000 worth of extra work simply because he didn't want to appear difficult. The shop became disorganized. I used to manage the inventory and track what materials were available and what needed to be ordered. Tyler allowed everything to pile up randomly. Materials for multiple projects were mixed together, tools were left outside in the rain, and equipment maintenance was ignored. At one point, a $15,000 tile saw broke because nobody cleaned it after use and the motor seized. Projects also exceeded budgets regularly because Tyler didn't monitor costs. He would promise a client a $12,000 project and then spend $17,000 before realizing there was no profit left. There was no contingency planning, no buffer for unexpected problems, just the assumption that everything would somehow work out. Eventually, Dad had to come out of semi-retirement simply to prevent the company from collapsing. At 64 years old, he returned to working 60-hour weeks. He woke up at 5 a.m. to open the shop and stayed until 7 p.m. completing paperwork that Tyler should have been handling. He even worked Saturdays fixing problems Tyler created during the week. His hands hurt, his back hurt. Every time I saw him, he looked exhausted. And I felt nothing. After about 2 months, Mom called me. "Your father is exhausted," she said. "This needs to stop. You're hurting him just to hurt Tyler." "I'm not hurting anyone," I replied. "I'm simply not helping anymore. There's a difference. If the business can't function without me providing free labor, that's not my problem. That's a flawed business model." "Family is supposed to help each other," she said. "Family is also supposed to not betray each other."
It's interesting that you're concerned about me helping now, but no one seemed concerned about the 3 years of betrayal. She hung up immediately. Around the 3rd month after everything happened, Tyler called me. It was the first time we had spoken since the dinner. He sounded desperate. "Dude, I know I messed up. I know I made a huge mistake, but can we please put this aside and help Dad? The business is drowning." "You're asking me to ignore 3 years of betrayal so I can rescue a company that was handed to you for free," I replied. "A business you're now running into the ground because you don't know what you're doing." "I'll step back," he said quickly. "I'll leave the business entirely. Just please help Dad." "That's not my problem anymore. You wanted the business. You got it. Now figure it out." "You're destroying Dad's legacy over a girl." "No," I said calmly. "I'm watching you destroy it through incompetence. The difference is that I'm no longer cleaning up your mistakes." He called me a few names and ended the call. Shortly afterward, he blocked my number. That was fine with me. Over the following weeks, I focused on rebuilding my own life. For some time, I had been doing small consulting jobs on the side, helping small businesses with financial planning and operational improvements. It was usually just a few hours here and there for acquaintances or referrals. But I realized I had a real skill for it. I could examine a company's financial records and quickly identify where they were losing money, where costs could be reduced, and where processes could be improved. So I turned that into a full-time business. I created a proper LLC, built a professional website, and contacted people in my network. It turned out many businesses needed this type of support and were willing to pay for it. My first major client was a small HVAC company. Their revenue was decent, but they couldn't understand why they weren't profitable. I spent 2 weeks analyzing their operations. The issue was simple. They were losing money on service calls because their pricing model didn't account for drive time or vehicle expenses. I helped them restructure their pricing system. Within 3 months, they went from barely breaking even to operating with a 15% profit margin. They paid me $8,000 for those 2 weeks of work. After that, referrals started coming in. A landscaping company with a similar financial problems contacted me, then a small restaurant group that couldn't understand their food costs, then a dental practice considering expansion but unsure if it was financially feasible. Each project paid between $5,000 and $15,000 depending on the complexity. Within a short time, I was earning in 1 month what I previously earned in 3 months as a financial analyst. I was also working around 30 hours per week instead of 50. Eventually, I had to start declining projects because my schedule was full. I increased my hourly rate from $150 to $250 to filter out less serious clients. Interestingly, I didn't lose any clients after raising my rates. In fact, interest increased. Higher prices apparently signal higher quality. I moved into a better apartment, a 2-bedroom place with a proper office, a gym in the building, and a dedicated parking spot. I also bought myself a new car. Nothing excessive, just something comfortable and reliable. It was the kind of purchase I had always wanted to make, but felt guilty about while giving my time away for free to family. Meanwhile, the family construction company continued its decline. They were losing money rapidly. Projects that should have taken 4 weeks were taking 8. Clients were demanding refunds, subcontractors were refusing to work with them anymore. Dad was constantly trying to solve problems, while Tyler blamed everyone except himself. About 4 months into the situation, Dad called me directly. Not through Mom, he called himself. "I need your help," he said. "Not for Tyler, for me. I built this company from nothing. I can't just watch it collapse." You gave it to someone who's destroying it. That was your decision. I made a mistake, he admitted. I see that now. Please help me save what I built. That was the acknowledgement I had been waiting for. Part of me wanted to refuse, let the company fail and allow them to deal with the consequences. But that's not really who I am. Despite everything, I didn't want my father to lose the business he spent his life building. What I wanted was for him to finally recognize the reality of Tyler's behavior. I'll help, I said, but I have conditions. Anything. First, I'm not doing this for free. If you want me to save the business, you'll pay consulting rates, $200 per hour with a minimum of 20 hours per week. Second, Tyler has no decision-making authority while I'm working. He can observe and learn, but he doesn't override my decisions. Third, once the business stabilizes, we will have a serious discussion about succession planning, real planning, not simply giving the company to whoever needs it most. Dad agreed to everything, most likely because he was desperate, and also because he knew I was his only realistic option. So, I returned, but not as unpaid family labor. I came back as a paid consultant with a formal contract in place. I worked exactly 20 hours per week. Every minute was billed. I did nothing beyond what was written in the agreement. The first step was assessing the damage. It was worse than I expected. The company was about $90,000 in debt. Suppliers were no longer extending credit. 3 projects were so far behind schedule that legal action for breach of contract was a real possibility. The accounts were also a mess. Tyler had been mixing personal and business expenses. He paid himself whenever he felt like it and used company credit cards for purchases related to his apartment. The first month was simply stopping the financial bleeding. I contacted suppliers I still had relationships with, explained the situation honestly, and negotiated new payment terms. They weren't as favorable as before, but they were better than requiring full payment up front. I collected overdue invoices and implemented a simplified accounting system that even Dad could maintain. However, I strictly limited my involvement to the agreed terms. I did not work evenings or weekends. I did not pursue new clients or expand the business. I completed my 20 contracted hours each week and then focused on my own growing consulting company. As a result, the business stabilized, but it did not grow to the level of profitability they had before. It was enough to keep the company operating, but not enough to support Dad's retirement plans. About 5 months into this arrangement, Mom called again. "Your father is exhausted," she said. "He's 64 years old and working 60 hours a week just to keep the business alive. This can't continue." "I agree," I replied. "He should sell the business and retire." "He built that company from nothing. It's his legacy." "Then he should have thought about that before giving it to someone who had no idea how to run it." "What do you want from me?" she asked. "I want you to come back and run the business properly so your father can retire with dignity." "At what cost?" I asked. "Am I supposed to forget that Tyler spent 3 years with my girlfriend? Pretend it's normal that everyone knew or suspected and chose to say nothing? Your first reaction was telling me not to cause drama." "We didn't know," she insisted. "Rachel spent every Sunday at your house. Tyler was there every Sunday. You're telling me nobody noticed anything unusual? You all saw what you wanted to see because it was easier than confronting the truth. That's not fair." "Fair? Where was fairness when I spent 3 years helping Dad for free? Where was fairness when Tyler was handed a business he wasn't qualified to manage? Where was fairness when you told me just to move on after learning I had been cheated on for 3 years? She didn't respond. The line was silent. "Here's what will happen. I'll finish my contract, which has 4 months remaining. During that time, I'll prepare the business to be sold. Dad can retire, you can downsize, and Tyler can figure out his own career path. After that, I'm done. No family dinners, no holidays, no pretending we're still a happy family." "You're being cruel." "No, I'm being honest. For the first time in my life, I'm putting myself first instead of sacrificing for people who don't appreciate it." I ended the call before she could respond. As for my family, the updates I hear come through my friend Jordan, who occasionally learns things through mutual contacts. From what I understand, the situation is not going well. Dad and Mom sold their house and moved into a smaller condominium. Their retirement savings are disappearing faster than expected because they're helping Tyler with rent. Yes, helping Tyler with rent. Apparently, when someone loses a comfortable job after the business is sold and has no real work history or skills, finding employment becomes difficult.
Rachel also tried to contact me a few months ago. She sent a long message explaining she had been reflecting on her actions and wanted to apologize properly. I read the message, felt absolutely nothing, and deleted it without responding. A week later, she sent another message asking if we could at least talk. I blocked her number. Tyler sent a message a month ago as well. I hope you're happy now. You destroyed our family's business just to get revenge. That one I did respond to. I didn't destroy anything. I salvaged what I could from your incompetence, ensured Dad had enough to retire, and then walked away. The fact that you interpret me refusing to sacrifice myself for you as revenge says everything about who you are. Do not contact me again. He didn't.